In this lesson, I want to talk to you about that common issue that small businesses in particular run into in the federal market, but really even large businesses run into this situation where people are not calling back. You're trying to reach out to the government, they're not calling you back. Or maybe you're trying to reach out to teammates and they're not coming back. You're going to struggle to build relationships as a federal government contractor, or to build relationships with buyers and other people who can help shape opportunities for you if you can't get in the door, right? And so outreach is about getting in the door, that first introduction call. And if people aren't returning calls, it's really going to frustrate you, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be a problem that you can't get past. And I'm hoping in today's training, I'll be able to help you get past that. In this lesson, I want to talk about 3 reasons why people are not returning your call, right? Why you're not getting a call back. The first one is you're not calling the right people. The second one is you're not warming up these leads, these people you're calling before you call them. And the third one is you're not attractive. When they do see that you called them or saw that you sent them an email and they do research on you, you're not attractive. And I mean attractive in a business core competency type way. And so those are the 3 things I really want to cover today in today's lesson. And if that's what you want to learn today, put call me in the comments. If you want people to call you back, put call me in the chat. Let's get that chat working. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I really believe at my core that if you know and follow a proven process, you're going to achieve any success that you want for yourself and for your company. That's why I'm here, and that's why you're here, I'm sure. And so that's what we're going to accomplish today. Before we get started, do me a favor. In the chat, help buyers remember who you are. Help the other people in the community remember who you are or know who you are, and help me remember who you are by putting your company name, your core competency, 2 or 3 words to say what you do. Put that into the chat so we know what your company sells. The other thing is grow your network by engaging with others in this LinkedIn community. Everybody in my training is open to connections, right? And so connect with folks in the community. Take the relationship offline out of this community so that you develop a working relationship on the outside. That's one of the great joys for us, is this ability to enable a networking environment for you every single day that you can find and develop relationships with new people in the GovCon space. Finally, do me a favor. Tell me what city you're coming in from, city and state. I really want to start building that and understanding that, because the GovCon Chamber since 2018, we've been supporting members from the time we hit the 300 member mark. We've been supporting members from Guam to the U.S. Virgin Islands and every state in between. And I just want to know where you're coming in from. I want to say thank you to our sustaining members of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Without your sustaining membership, we wouldn't be able to make all this possible. So thank you to you. Also, thank you to those of you who are showing up and here for the training. Without you, it's like dancing without music. It's a little off. So we're super happy that you're here with us, and getting ready to dive into today's topic about why no one takes your calls or is calling you back. So let me dive into the 3 main points I want to cover. The first reason that you might find that people are not calling you back is that you're just not calling the right people. And I want to dive into this a little bit. Sometimes when we call somebody, we're reaching out to them, we're hoping they're getting back to us, and they don't get back to us. And we feel if it's for a lot of different reasons, but the reality is it could be it's just not a match. And you haven't taken the time to understand that it's not a match. For example, one way that you know it's not a match, or you could know that it's not a match, is you're aiming too high. I'll tell you a quick little story. This past weekend, on a Saturday, I engaged with a 3-star general in the Department of Defense. So he was a commander of an agency. We're engaged on LinkedIn. We're kind of trading some engagement back and forth about a particular piece of content. And and he's my market to a degree, in the sense that I want to reach out and get information from agencies and give it to industry. And so I could easily have tried to spin that and say, well, let me see if I can set up a meeting. Hey, can we have a meeting and start working? But what I did instead is I just reached out to somebody, a direct report much lower down in the rung, and said, let me reach out to this person. It turned out to be the small business specialist for this agency, which is perfect. They're heading up a big initiative out there. But I was able to take what he and I talked about and brought it over to conversation I'm hoping to have with her. But when I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm having a conversation with about this agency, can we connect? She's like, absolutely. I'm out next week. Why don't we look at the week after? And so I aimed at the right level. He might have met with me, right? We had a good trading of dialogue back and forth, and he might have gone, sure, let me connect with Neil, or let me give him 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was, right? But he's super busy and at the top. That's leadership level. And I sometimes describe OSDBUs that same way. They might take your call, but their job is to make sure the policies and the actions of an agency is supporting the small business community. They have small business specialists who might be a better level for you to reach out. So understand, just as you're trying to reach out to people, maybe you're reaching too high, you're aiming too high. And so another thing I want you to pay attention to on why perhaps people are not calling you back or you're not calling the right people is that you don't fully understand the roles people are in. And I really want you to understand the roles that people fit into in 3 categories. I call it FR, FD, FP. So focuses of receptivity, focuses of dissatisfaction, and focuses of power. Focuses of receptivity is pretty much anybody who's willing to talk to you. They're receptive to you. They're receptive to your call. They're receptive to your questions. They're receptive to your continued questions, right? They feel like maybe there's something they can do to help their agency. You know, they're not just doing you some sneaky favor. They feel like they can help their agency by helping you. Plus, they're just open, right? There's some of us are more open and willing to share, and others are a little bit more reserved. It doesn't make us better or worse than anybody else, but a focus of receptivity is an ideal person. And so you absolutely want to be reaching out to these people as you're going into an agency from the start, right? So trying to find focuses of receptivity. Focuses of dissatisfaction, or FD, these are the program office people, basically. They're the ones who have the problem. They have a dissatisfaction with the way things are going, or a dissatisfaction in the sense that they want to go in a new direction and they need help getting there, right? It doesn't mean there's a problem. It means there's a goal and they're trying to go that direction. Well, so that's the program office. And trying to reach out to the program office, that's fine, but you need to understand who are you reaching out to. I reach out a lot into Department of Defense for my customers. Reaching out to the program executive officer, the highest person in a program, doesn't make sense because that person has a different set of responsibilities. But ironically, the deputy has a set of responsibilities to engage with the industry, but also I could come 3 or 4 rungs down lower and not only find somebody who's closer to the work, but I might also find somebody who's a little less just very busy, right? Not that we aren't all busy 8 hours a day kind of thing, but sometimes there's a little bit more flexibility the lower down in the rung you have than up above when you're in the program office and you're getting pulled into all these leadership meetings or something. Not to judge any of our jobs and our roles, but just understanding a little bit lower down on the totem pole or on the ladder maybe gets you in. So in a program office, you want to be kind of aiming in that area that might fit for you. And if you're thinking about a program executive office program, inside of a program executive office, they tend to have project levels. That's where I might try to get in at that level. That's the aiming at the right level. And then the last one is focuses of power. This is basically the contract shop, the acquisition shop. And so contract specialist, contract officer, if I'm going in, I might go into that type of environment, into those roles by starting with a contract specialist whose job is probably to help the contracting officer engage with industry a little bit more, right? Not trying to lock everybody into one group, one way of doing things, but typically the contracting officer is trying to do all this stuff behind the scenes, and the contracting specialist has a lot of this responsibility of reaching out or trying to really gather and manage and analyze what's coming in from industry. And so they might be an ideal person. But what I want you to keep in mind is you need to know who in the agency or the company you're trying to get into are your focuses of receptivity, focuses of dissatisfaction, and the focuses of power. When you understand that, you'll begin to identify the right people to call. So let me just give you a couple of quick tips on how you can research folks to find the right people. Because I think this is another reason why we're not calling the right people is we're not taking the time to do research. An example is the organization chart. So Gus who's on here running this training with me every day, he and I worked together on DLA a couple of years ago, right? This is actually where we met and began to form our long-term relationship. And we worked with the Defense Logistics Agency And we mapped out the entire organization before we ever made one phone call. We understood the major components within that agency, and then all the subordinate offices, all the divisions and directorates, all the branches down to the offices. We understood and gathered as many people, like over 100 people all throughout. And we looked at this and decided, okay, who do we want to call? What's the best path to get in? We really want to talk to this person, but maybe we should talk to this person first and then kind of work our way up, because we can learn some information here and then talk to this person. That research took us, let's say it took 2 months, but it really took us only a month. But even if it took you 2 months, it gives you this full understanding of an organization, of an agency, and you can use an org chart as the basis of gathering all that information. Another example of how you can do research are agency strategic documents. Inside of strategic documents, you'll definitely see their goals, their strategies, their challenges listed, their objectives. But you often will see who's responsible for particular objectives or achieving metrics, or at least just leading the charge to help the agency achieve certain areas. When you read these documents, at the very least, you tend to see program offices lower level who are responsible for something. So it's helping you kind of call the right people. But sometimes you get into these documents, they'll tell you exactly who the person is. Like Joe's got this responsibility, Jane's got this responsibility. And that's goes to another tip on researching, is you can find it in industry day slides. And I don't mean industry day slides necessarily about a particular opportunity, but when an agency like Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane, who happens to be my favorite example this week, apparently, if you go in there, they put out a lot of good briefing documents. And in the briefing documents, they tell you exactly who the people are and the organizational structure within each lower level office. There's a list of all the right people that you can find. And you can begin to define a path of, hey, I think I'll go from these people up to these people, over to these people. And it gives you a way to navigate. And the last one is finding the right people is going into LinkedIn. LinkedIn, we're all here already, right? Even if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, or you're watching a replay, come into LinkedIn. It's free. You can get in here. And once you're in, you can go to an agency like Navy, or you can go to a company like Booz Allen and begin to find the right people you can reach out to. One example of somebody who might be the right person are people who are on LinkedIn and engaging. Because if they're engaging, then they're open to dialogue. Like I talked about this weekend with that gentleman I was talking to who's running an agency, right? Because I'm engaging with him, I'm able to find some other people that are also maybe engaging from within his agency and then reach out to them. So it's a circular world. But if you haven't done this, go into LinkedIn and really understand who are the people that you could possibly reach out to. Okay, so if you understand what I'm saying here, that one of the challenges for people not calling us back is that we're not calling the right people, put in the comments or the chats, call the right people. Call the right people into the chat or the comments. Okay, so let me go into the second reason I want to discuss about why no one takes your calls and what you can do about it, right, in the federal market. So if the first thing is you're not calling the right people, but then you address it the way I suggested and you start calling the right people, the second thing you want to do is to make sure you're warming up the leads before the call. This is something we don't do enough, and it's a clear sign that we don't do it enough if people aren't calling us back. But if you do this correctly, what I'm about to teach you, then people will start calling you back. You'll get calls being returned, and you get emails being returned. So the first tip, and I got a couple of different tips here, but the first thing I just want to mention is that, when you're talking about warming up a lead before a call, one of the best ways is to get an introduction or a recommendation, right? And so when you think about an introduction or a recommendation, you're talking about, if you're lucky enough to be inside of a company or inside of an agency, you can get them to make the referral. So I say focus is a receptivity. One of the best things about them is they're willing to make introductions. So generally you want to start with like a small business specialist or a small business liaison officer within an agency. But you can also use, and I'm sorry, my face, I get frustrated when I see that people could have success if you just did this one thing. Have a relationship with your PTAC counselor, the Apex Accelerators, right? Have a relationship with these people. They have a relationship with their clients or the agencies that they support, both large primes and government buyers. These PTAC counselors have relationships with them. Those people come into the PTAC and say, hey, you know any small businesses, for example. So if you have a good relationship, I don't mean drive in, ask for a referral and get out. It's like, why would I do that for you? I don't know who you are. I haven't built a relationship with you, but build a relationship. I talk about digging your well before you're thirsty. Don't wait until you're thirsty to start digging a well, because, that'll take a while. But if you build a relationship with PTAC counselors, you're digging that well, you're developing that relationship, so that not only when you're ready will they make an introduction, but often they'll make an introduction before you even ask, because now they know about you and they know about your company's strengths, et cetera, and they know about the need of the buyer or the large primes. So definitely try to get an introduction or recommendation. It's a great way to try to get in. In LinkedIn, by the way, if you don't know this, and this is the second tip I want to give you for how to warm up leads, is in LinkedIn, you can use LinkedIn to engage folks, but you can also use LinkedIn as a way to get introductions. I get people do this all the time. It's like, hey, Neil, I see you're connected with this person. Could you make an introduction? And I'm connected with 18,000 people, so I know about that many of them personally, kind of thing. But it doesn't matter, because I'm connected. I reach out anyways if it's a fit and if it makes sense. I'm like, hey, John, meet Jane. She was just trying to connect with you. I actually think that's a great way to get in, because if you have first connections that can lead you down the path, well, that is the whole purpose of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a networking platform, right? Facebook is a time-killing platform, in my opinion. But LinkedIn is a networking platform, right? It tells you how many first connections you have and how many steps away you are from your target. Just get introductions that way. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about, before I go to LinkedIn and tell you how to do it, I just want to talk really quickly about this idea that people buy from those they know, like, and trust, right? And so if you're not warming up these leads before a call, they don't know, like, and trust you. And it's really important for them to do that. They need to know of you, right? It's a new meeting often, right? You're trying to have a new meeting and trying to get in. And so they don't really know you haven't met, but they can know, like, and trust you by what you do on social media. And social media, let's expand that into your website and some other tools like that. But so some of the things you could do is, if you use LinkedIn as an example, you can get in and follow the person you're trying to connect with. I do this all the time. One of the ways I try to signal to somebody that I'm interested in learning more about them and in working with them, potentially have a meeting, is I don't go in and connect. A lot of people connect with me, and I'm okay with it, connect with me. But what I like doing is hitting follow, because when I hit follow, they don't have a choice to reject me. If I send them a connection request, you can reject me. But if I say I'm following you, sorry, you're out of luck. You can't do anything about it. I can follow you. And LinkedIn will send a message saying, hey, John, Neil's following you now. And that's a great way for me to get on somebody's radar, right? And I'm only getting on people's radars who matter to me in the business I'm trying to do. The second thing you can do as you begin to engage, right? Follow is something you do. You're not trying to reach out to people you don't want to build a relationship with, right? So you start by following, so you can be tracking on what they're sharing, and then start engaging on what content they're sharing or what they're doing out there. And so when I talk about engaging, I mean liking somebody's content. Give it a thumbs up. You can give a comment where it's some sort of engaged content that shows you read their post and you're contributing it in this way. Somebody put out a post, Juliet put out a post this morning about proposal management. And when she did, by the way, Juliet Fletcher, if you're not tracking her, make sure you do. But she put out a post this morning about proposal management and past performances and how you can really show that your past performance matters in a proposal. And I engaged saying this stuff is awesome, because this is what we need to do, not just in capture when we're trying to tell that story and get them to see our past performance as value before it's even written. But I said in business development, when I'm in telling stories, I should begin to tell it this way all the time. So I'm always telling it. So she and I were engaging, and then somebody else was engaging. You can do that with the people you're trying to connect with. So liking their content, commenting on their comment that I just met, and then you can connect with them. Right? At some point, it might make sense. Like if I'm engaging with somebody a couple of times, I'm off to the races and I feel comfortable connecting. By the way, a quick little tip that I use is when I send somebody a connection request, I almost always, there's rare cases, but I almost always send them a personalized message with my connection. But because it's after we've been engaged at some level, I don't have to say a lot in the message, but I do say, I'd welcome a connection if you're open to it. Right? It's kind of like when I call somebody on the phone, I say, hey, am I catching you at a good time? I'm giving them the chance to say yes or no. I'm just being polite. So many people are not polite today. And that little thing, I'm telling you, you want something from me, say please and thank you. And more often than not, I'll try to help you. Okay, so the other thing about know, liking, and trusting, right? It's one thing to get people to begin to know you, and how they like and trust you is your content, the information you're sharing. So really look at your website. Are you writing blogs? Look at LinkedIn. Are you sharing posts on a regular basis? It doesn't have to be every day like I am, but on a regular basis. Are you engaged out there? When you put out like a white paper or a case study, are you sharing it on your LinkedIn profile? So do you have a YouTube channel? It's not like you have to go and get all this in place if you're not there yet. But certainly as you start to get closer to like a $5 million company and 10 million, if you don't have this kind of social media strategy in place, then you're missing out on a major portion of communicating with your target buyer. And so the last thing I just wanted to mention on this idea of warming up leads is that it's a 7-hour activity. So we talk about when the people, your buyers in particular, will really begin to engage with you and want to buy from you after they've consumed 7 hours of your content, whatever it is, right? I do these videos, I share blog posts, whatever your content is. Well, your engagement on LinkedIn, where I was talking about it, that can begin to help them, right? And your meetings with them, when you have meetings with them, that adds into the 7 hours. And so putting content down there, engaging on social media will allow you to start that 7-hour process to get people to know, like, and trust you, so that you're warming them up before you ever make the call and the ask for a meeting. They're more likely to accept your meeting and schedule a meeting with you if they know, like, and trust you, right? So if you understand this concept of 7-hour rule, that you need to be engaging with people to help them know, like, and trust you, do me a favor, in the chat, put 7-hour rule. I want you to understand that 7 hours is an important thing to just put in your mind. 7-hour rule into the chat. And then let me take a sip of water. We'll knock this last tip out. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is, the reason people aren't calling you back. You're not finding the right people. Okay, I gave you ways to find the right people. You're not, when you're reaching out to them, you haven't warmed them up beforehand. So I'm giving you tips on how you can warm them up. And the third thing is you're not attractive when they research you. And what I mean by attractive is if you're a cybersecurity company and you're saying that, and they come look at your marketing material, it should say cyber, right? I don't mean, do you have a jacket on? So understand the idea of, I talk often about visibility as findability and attractiveness. Can they find you? And does your company represent what they searched for when they found you? If I search for cybersecurity, I want everything about you to scream cyber. So let's just talk about why it's important for you to be attractive when they research you. They're doing their due diligence. You're reaching out to me. I get this all the time. People send me a connection request. I'll accept almost all connection requests, in particular if they're in the GovCon space and they're in the United States, right? But I look at every single one. I don't just accept it. Even if it says business developer in the federal market, I still click and I go, look, first thing I'm looking for is to go, is this a spam account, right? I don't mind if it's a person who's just getting started, but there's bots out there, or people that are bad. It takes me 2 seconds to find that out. But I look at it and I just make sure it's good. So I'm doing my due diligence on connection requests. Well, if you're scheduling a meeting, especially if you're scheduling a meeting with a large prime or a government buyer, they want to know, why should I meet with you? And so I'm just doing some due diligence again. Do I want to meet with this person? And when they do this research on you and you're attractive in the way that matches that search intent, they're going to see social proof. They want social proof that you are somebody they should meet with, right? And how they determine that is a whole nother training. But an example of how it happens with me is if somebody's connecting with me or wants to connect with me, one of the first things I see is how many connections in common do we have? That's a social proof. Were we both in the Army? Did we both go to the same school, right? But the big one for me is how many connections do we have in common? I can tell if it's a welder who just got on LinkedIn and they got 20 connections. I'm like, okay, so we're not gonna have a lot in common, but you're just coming over here because we told you to come to LinkedIn, right? That's different than somebody who's got 1,000 connections and we have hardly anybody in common. It makes me doubt whether we're in the same area, and I don't need to bring somebody like that into my feed. I don't have the time for it. And so your buyers do that same thing before they have a meeting with you. They're looking to say, do I want to pull you into my feed? Do I want to have a meeting with you and use 15 minutes or an hour? So when I talk about attractiveness, really, again, it's aligning what you sell to their needs. And so if they're in need of cybersecurity work and you do construction, there's no alignment. Why should I meet with you? Why should I call you back? Right? So there's nothing there. The other thing is they're looking for consistency in message. So when they look at all your social media channels, websites, LinkedIn, et cetera, they want to see consistency across the board. Here's 3 places you can go check today to make sure there's consistency across the board for how attractive you are, how consistent you are with what you sell as a message. The dynamic small business search, get in there and make sure that you look great. I have a whole video that'll tell you in 30 minutes how to look great. I have a whole course of 5 hours that's free and on YouTube that you can use to help you make a perfect DSBS profile. So there's no excuse for not doing that. So make sure you look good there. Then go to your website and say, hey, are my services and my capability statement and my case studies all aligning to what we sell? Do they all kind of communicate the same message? And the last thing is your LinkedIn profile. Go in there and look at your LinkedIn profile. Do you have just a job title in your headline, or do you have something that says, I help this type of people, like I help federal agencies or whatever, I help these people do this thing in this way in order to achieve this result, right? You can watch the replay to see what I just said there. But that headline, if you say that, it's an attractive thing because they see it. They're like, oh, that's what I want. I'll meet with you because I want to talk more about that. And then your activity, they'll look into LinkedIn and say, are you active in LinkedIn? It doesn't mean they won't meet with you, but your activity will tell them whether you're aligned to them. So that's why it's really important to make sure your activity is driven towards what you sell. So make sure you're continuously updating those tools. Put be attractive into the chat if you understand that you need to be attractive to the buyer to match the search intent they have or the idea of what they think about your company. So as a recap, if you want people to call you back, call the right people. Warm them up before you call them, and then be attractive when they look at you. Here's my one tip for today that you can do right now to move yourself one step forward. Go upload your capability statement into LinkedIn. It will take you 5 minutes or less to upload a PDF. Don't go anywhere. Don't go to lunch. Don't go to breakfast. Don't go to a customer meeting. Do it right now. Put it in, and I'm telling you, you'll increase your visibility and you'll help get more meetings because you're doing one thing that improves it. All right, hey, I'm releasing a new version of my business development course this month. If you're interested, you want to learn more about it, go to neilmcdonald.com. And then remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.